Hi guys, let's get the auto check out the way. We got to get straight into it. I am thinking this is probably going to be my most profound video yet, which is a lot to claim because I've released some really deep dives into a lot of very complex topics. But things happen by accident. Our greatest discoveries are normally in retrospect. Our greatest discoveries are often things we're not even looking to find. Great sound. Thank you. So, no one should be put off. We remove that from studio. No one should be put off or ashamed that we've been misled so many times. When the collective is being force-fed material from the establishment, free-thinking souls, those closer to source, are the first ones to break away from former narratives. And what this causes by our controllers is to put people on pedestals and finance them so that they will become the new voice for an alternate media. So this is what I'm claiming that has happened. You guys already know this. I'm not telling you. Those of you who are awake, I'm not telling you anything new. But when we have people like Tucker Carlson, Graham Hancock, we have these personalities that are in the field. It's like, wow. So you're not an archaeologist and you're not a historian. You're not a chronologist. You don't know anything about, you have no history whatsoever on any matters of antiquity whatsoever, but you land contracts with publishers like Simon and Schuster and all those publishers, owned by the Rand Corporation. How is it possible when there's so much competition and so many better theories and so many more qualified writers than you? How did Hancock get published? This isn't a Hancock rant. I'm making a point. We have so many people in social media. I'll name another one I'm kind of disgusted with, Jay Anderson. He's a copy and paste scholar. But who are these guys? Who are these Jimmy Corsettis? Who are these guys that they pop up? I'm going to tell you. When the collective pushes a narrative, there's always going to be free-thinking souls that refuse to buy into it. So other narratives that steer you even further away from core fundamentals and truths are then established in finance. So these guys start popping up all over the field and they have unique twists on theories, and we fall prey to it over and over. We fall in love with personalities and we fall prey to these paradigms that are false and they have no information whatsoever that actually supports them. It's a just enough truth in order to feed you more with lies. So we have the Brett Weinsteins of the world, and the Jimmy Corsettis, and the Billy Carsons, and the Randall Carlson. Yeah, he's really bad. He is so stuck on uniformitarian shit. He's still talking about rocks falling from space. He's still talking about glaciation and ice ages and all that. Listen, we're not guilty of falling prey to these paradigms because it's so cleverly done. As a collective, we've only been waking up for the past 20, 25, 30 years. Some of you, yeah, I know you can argue the fact that you're awake in the 1960s or 70s. I get it. There are always exceptions to a rule. It's the exceptions that always empower a rule. So, because the rule is basically for the norm, the many, the majorum. So, it's hard for me. It's hard for me to start this video other than just giving you a demonstration. I'm just going to give you a visual demonstration so you can look on the screen, because where we're going in this video, you'll never be able to anticipate. What we have found clicked together so fast, and it's because I had to remove everything from the field. The handbag issue has been solved, and it's incredible. And some of you are going to tear up toward the end of this video, I promise you. This is amazing. But this video here is putting back together the original faith, the holy faith of the pre-flood world. And what all these truthers and all these copy and paste scholars and all these theorists are putting together is just fragments leading you in different directions, because these symbols have deep meanings. Let me show you, basically give you a tour real fast as an intro of what we're bombarded with, and how it has deep meanings that aren't even conveyed by anyone. Let's do it. I'm going to share my screen. We have a lot to look at. All right, share my screen. Maybe I should open it first, huh? All right, good. Just a second, guys. I got a lot of material here. It's already organized, but we have a lot of material. So I'm going to put that here. Like I said, this is just an intro. You guys should be able to see this right now. I've got Face Diaper in the, Wit is in the studio with me right now. Anytime I'm sharing my screen, if it's not on the screen, let me know.
Absolutely.
I can't really see what y'all see. So we have this winged deity everywhere in the ancient world. It doesn't matter if it's ancient Persia, in Egypt, and Hittite Anatolia, Mitanni, the Amorite kingdom of the Amuru, the capital city Mari. It doesn't matter if it's Babylon, Assyria, Elam. It's everywhere. We have these 3D weights. A lot of people call them handbags. We have different time periods, different cultures were using the same symbols because they had morphed into new concepts. Here's the winged deity. This time it's got a solar cross. We've seen these from Central America. I believe this is Ecuador right here. This is a very common picture with the guys with the talking about the handbags. All these representations, you see two felines here, two serpents here, and a deity in the middle, or we're presuming is a deity. This is just a tour, guys. So again, we have these hawk-faced guys with four wings. This one right here is supporting. This is from Anatolia as well, supporting one of the Tepe sites, supporting a winged disc. Remember, guys, I'm going to be the first one to tell you, Göbekli Tepe and all 41, 42 other tepes aren't near as old as you think. And there's new excavations going on nearby that actually shows that they may have to modify the dating on the Tepe sites. They are antediluvian, pre-flood, and I think they're 38th, 37th, 36th, 34th century BC. They are not 10,000, 8,000 BC. So here's the winged disc. So we have these guys in late Assyrian times. This is an Assyrian. This is about 6th or 7th century BC. It's very artistic. It's very crisp. You can see it's a very popular motif. Many people are claiming that these are handbags and that these are pine cones. Whoops. What you're going to see in this video is that is not a handbag and that is not a pine cone at all. And this is how imagery and relief is borrowed by later post-reset cultures who didn't formally understand exactly what it was they were seeing on the ancient ruins, ancient seals, reliefs, and monuments that of their predecessors. When they rebuilt their civilizations, they also rebuilt new structuring into their faith, their traditions, their lore, their myths changed. When we decode and show you what that is, and show you what this is, the bag and the pine cone, it's going to be coming from ancient Sumerian seals, the very oldest of the Sumerian art. And you're going to see for yourself what these are. So this right here, This is Assyrian. This is late 8th century BC, Sennacherib era. So all throughout the history of the Near East, it is amazing. It doesn't matter if you're looking at Assyrian reliefs or if you're looking at Persian reliefs, if you're looking at Egyptian artwork and reliefs, if you're looking at Israelite, it doesn't matter. It is very noticeable that the palm tree is in all the art of the ancient world. It had special properties. Palm trees are everywhere. Now, this is a stylized Assyrian representation that is actually an amalgamation of more ancient motifs. They merged the winged figure with the horned helm, which was never a bull. Only late in Assyrian history did they add the bull motif to it. This is an Apkallu. In Akkadian, it's Apkallu. In Sumerian, they are the Abgal. There were only 7 of these individuals. We'll be talking about them and who they are and why they're holding this object that looks like a bag and why they're holding this object that looks like a pine cone. Again, here's some Assyrian art. And again, palm trees are everywhere. You can't miss those palm trees. Just regular Assyrian art. Okay, there's the Karen Tepe relief right here. Bird cult. Remember, all the Tepe sites have bird cult stuff. The only reason archaeologists are saying Göbekli Tepe and some other Tepe sites are 8,000 BC is because they were buried. But we already know there wasn't one flood in the pre-flood world. There were 2. And this has everything to do with what we're talking about today. There were 2 floods in the ancient world. One was the Gihon flood in 3439 BC, and the later one was the Noach flood called the Typhon flood in 2239 BC. 2 different floods destroyed two different epics, and the survivors that carried many of their symbols and traditions into the later civilization, the post-reset civilization. We'll be talking about this most fascinating Sumerian seal of Enki. Also, many people have showed this. I'm telling you now, what this is depicting is vaguely known to scholarship. But even scholarship will tell you, and I have stacks of books on Sumerian symbols, how to decode them. I got stacks of these books back here that we've had to go through on Sumerian, Akkadian, and ancient Near Eastern studies and imagery, iconography. Well, and scholars are not agreed about how to interpret these seals. They're not. And that's what makes this presentation so interesting, because I'm not going to have to tell you. I'm going to show you these seals and you're going to see it. Just some of the sources. So this isn't old at all. When you see pictures like this, you're looking at 8th, 7th, 6th, 5th century BC Assyrian and Near Eastern stuff. The older Sumerian and Akkadian did not have this level of precision. Their artwork. We see this everywhere in Assyrian art. This guy shaped like a bird, or he's on a bird. He's flying through the sky. In this case, it's Asher. So again, we see these handbags. Pay attention to this bird. This bird here is integral to understanding what's going on. And what these so-called handbags really, what the meaning of these handbags really are. So we're just doing a tour of a lot of the mysteries about the handbag. Here's an old Sumerian seal. There's a deity on a winged something. Again, here's an Assyrian relief, very, very detailed. This on the right is a phoenix palm. It's a date palm. Again, Assyrian reliefs. These are the Apkallu, the 7 sages. In ancient times, they were referred to as the 7 builder gods, the 7 Anunnaki, the 7 sages. They came from the Abzu. They were Every one of them in their own right was also called Utu-Abzu, which means a brother of the deep. To Enki, they were a brotherhood, and they all came from the underworld, and they came to the surface to share civilization. We'll get to that. Again, you see the winged disc at the top, right here. Just going through here. Here's the goddess between two lions. The scorpions were an ancient motif for guardianship and curse, meaning if you trespass something, you would feel the sting of the scorpion. It'd be a curse. Here's a stylized version of the winged disc up here. The winged disc has everything to do with what this symbol is you see on the screen right now. It's actually pretty good artwork right there. So a lot of people show, here's the handbag. Well, they call them handbags, but here's the handbags at the pillar at Göbekli Tepe. Here's the bird called effigies. This is not Scorpio. That scorpion don't listen to Graham Hancock. It's not. The scorpions were put on pillars all throughout Babylon and Amorite-controlled Mitanni for the simple purpose as boundary stones, letting trespassers know that you're going to feel the sting of the scorpion if you trespass across my border. That's what the scorpion image is in ancient years. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. You'll find out. Scholarship is long known that the scorpion was put on boundary stones everywhere. It was a threat. It was basically a threat. Hey, man, you're free. You're free to do what you want to do. But if you pass this pillar right here and you come into my domain, then I'm going to sting you. That's basically all it meant. So again, here's the handbags. Here are weights and measures. So I did a previous video. In that previous video, I was explaining my theory that for a period of time during the Heliolithic Maritime Empire, 2239 BC to 1687 BC, a 552-year period, the sea kings, when they were traveling all over the world, bearded mariners were spreading civilization between the Yangtze Valley in China, where pyramids are located, in the Urubamba Valley of South America, where later pyramid like Lucarmata was built, in Tiahuanaco, Pumapunka. This mariner race that went everywhere and left behind this tradition that one day they're going to return, but they were regarded as benefactors all throughout Ecuador, all throughout, I can't pronounce it, Oaxia, all the Olmec and early Mayan, proto-Mayan sites. We have the Aztec Quetzalcoatl, Votan, Viracocha, these gods, Boquica, all these bearded gods that came by ship that promised to return. This was during the Heliolithic Maritime Empire. Their world was destroyed in a phoenix cataclysm called the Ogaigian Deluge. But they used to carry the bag too, but it wasn't a bag. To them, it was an ingot. To them, it was a symbol of their office. It showed that they had authority and that they were bringing civilization to the people. Same connotation, different culture, different time period. The Sea Kings merely appropriated a symbol, thinking they knew what it meant. And many cultures have done the same thing. Again, we have all these stylized different deals, and they're all good. They're all good. This one looks like a weight. And according to scholarship, many of these were weights. They were used as weights, and they even have, some of them have cuneiform on them that show them what the weight designation is. But they weren't all weights. They're not handbags. They weren't all ingots. They weren't all weights. They're something else. Different, like I said, different cultures appropriating for different. This is Iran right here. This is Persia. So why would the Persians have a deity flying through the air on some winged apparatus, just like the Sumerians, just like the Akkadians, just like the Babylonians, just like the Assyrians, just like the Hittites, just like the Amorites, just like the northern Syrians, just like the Egyptians? Why? All these different cultures, different religions, different histories, different traditions and mythology, different languages, but you all have the same symbol. Why? The Bin stone, ancient Egypt, believed to have been just a replica, a smaller replica of the capstone that's supposed to be on top of the pyramid. Again, winged disc. So this is just an intro showing you all these mysterious things for which we've been led down all kinds of rabbit holes about, and very seldom are they the truth. Here's an Egyptian. Remember, if they had the ability to anatomically get a duck exactly the way a duck looks, then it begs the question, why do you assume that other things that they put are not done to the best of their ability? Concepts and beliefs put into imagery. There's something to this red disc here with these wings. Again, this is an Assyrian deity flying through the air above a palm tree. These are palms. You see them everywhere in Assyrian art. Again, these are the Apkallu. The Apkallu are all over the world. The Apkallu are the 7 sages. They are the 7 builder gods. They're the 7 giants. They are the 7 Anunnaki. These were counselors assigned to the 7 kings of Sumer on the Sumerian king list. But we're going to get to that in a minute. This is on the far left. This is Assyrian. This is the Apkallu in late Assyria. This is probably Neo-Assyrian Empire. It's very late. It's right before Sennacherib lost his 185,000 Assyrian soldiers when the sun went from 360 days. I mean, when the year went from 360 days to 365. That's this style of art. The next style of art you see here is Oannes. This is Babylonian. It's much older. This would be the second Babylonian Empire of Nebuchadnezzar I around the 11th and 12th century BC. This is Tiahuanaco in South America. It too, right there, is a stylized. We're going to call it bag right now until we get to the juicy stuff. But it too is showing that this is not a creator god. This is not a human. All these depictions are of a semi-divine being who is specifically left on earth for a purpose. And we'll get to that. Again, here's part. This is Iran right here. Here's old Sumerian seal. Shows this guy flying through the air. He's got these wings. More handbags. Oh, I put this together. Yeah. Just more handbag deals. I think we're almost done with this. Here's Inky on his boat. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that, man. Inky came from the underworld, but he arrived into our world by ship. Here's Inky on his boat. You can tell it's Inky too, and this isn't me making the interpretation. Scholarship is the one that put in the footnotes that this is Inky and 2 stewards. The reason they know is because in the center, you can actually see the streams of water coming off of him. Inky always has rivers of water coming off of him. This is an Egyptian depiction of the phoenix palm. Again, we saw that. We started with that one. It might be, yeah, that's it. That's it. We're done. We're done with our little intro. I just wanted to do this little tour to familiarize yourself with all the material that's in the field. Everything on social media, YouTube videos are packed with it. There's docuseries, even published books. Many people, they're just putting information out there to the best of their ability. But thus far, I'm not seeing anybody really nailing it. I've seen people get real close, but they just haven't nailed it. And this didn't really come by virtue of research. It was total accidental discovery, looking at something else, and it just popped into my field. Like, what, 4 days ago? Man, it has been a hectic 3 days because the presentation that I've put together for you right now is going to blow your mind. And you're going to see frame by frame just how much work was put in here, because I abbreviated hundreds of pages out of published books and all that into visual form for you. And if you can go look at the books yourselves, but this is packed full of data. So let's go ahead and start. Let me get this coffee in me and let's get started. All right. So I'm going to share my screen again, and we're going to move right through. Listen, Archaix veterans, oh, you're going to love this. You're going to love this. Grifters, you're going to hate this. Yeah, man. Here we go. This is the very first of many, many homemade charts that were done specifically for this video. This is the first. So it's education time. This is an old Akkadian seal based off a Sumerian prototype. It's pretty famous. It's in a lot of books. What you're looking at is Enki. This is Enki. How do we know? He's got right here. This is Enki. Then he has rivers coming off of him. He is a wellspring. He is one of the Utu-Abzu. He is one of the brothers of the deep. This is what they were called. Brothers of the deep. They weren't regarded as enemies. They weren't regarded as enemies of the deep. For some reason, during Sumerian times before the flood, we seem to have been on friendly terms with those beneath us. So Enki is right here first. You see him right there. What's he doing? He's coming out of the underworld. This is Enki coming out of the underworld. When he makes his ascent out of the underworld, the goddess by name in Sumerian, Inanna, is already reigning supreme. She is the authority. She is standing high right here on the pedestal when Enki comes up. Once Enki's up, here he is standing here. Enki's ascent. These seals are very easy to interpret, guys. Enki begins his ascent on the surface. That's what the symbol means of him picking up his leg and stepping on the platform that Inanna already controls. So Enki comes up from the underworld. He is the source of living waters for mankind. This thing that's accompanying Enki is also the source of his power. Many, many Mesopotamian scholars have claimed that that's just an eagle. Other Mesopotamian scholars, as I'll show, claim it's a thunderbird. It is not an eagle. I know it's a phoenix, but I'm going to show you a whole lot more before I ask you to believe that. So, Enki, make sure you guys can read all this. Enki is later called Ea, like Yah. He is the Lord of the deep and is described as having come from the underworld. In the seal above, Enki appears when the goddess Inanna is supreme. Enki's appearance is linked to a great sky bird. When he first appears, it is the time of much flooding. But it's not talking about Noah's flood. It's a flood much earlier. Enki is a creator. He's not the creator, because in the Anunnaki Sumerian accounts and Anunnaki traditions, humans were made in stages, just like the Mayan Popol Vuh says. Humans were made out of straw. Didn't work out. Humans were made out of stone. Didn't work out. Humans were made out of wood. Didn't work out. Humans were made out of clay. And the gods realized they can work with that. So here is Enki is a creator of mankind, but he is a bringer of civilization. He is the God of wisdom and living waters, a protector and mediator between the Anunnaki and mankind. He is always depicted as bearded, and he has access to the underworld. Enki created the 7 Abgal. The Abgal in Sumerian are later in Akkad called the Apkallu. These are semi-divine guardians and counselors. In Sumerian, they have the title Umanu. The Umanu are assigned to the 7 kings of Sumer to aid them in benefiting mankind with civilization. So we have the first appearance of Enki coming from the underworld during the ascendancy of Inanna, the goddess, in the pre-flood world. So, but when Enki appears, there is an event. There is an event that leads to his ascension. He's stepping up to where Inanna holds power. The event has something to do with this bird in the sky. These are just highlights on the side showing Enki. You can see, the highlights show you that this is Enki coming out of the ground. Comes up here. Here's the bird. The bird has like flames coming off of it, or smoke. Here he is. the life-giving waters that come off of Enki, Lord of the deep, Lord of the living waters. And this is Enki right here, according to the Akkadians, who called him Ea. Enki is Sumerian. Ea is Akkadian. What is the difference? The difference is a reset. The difference is the Akkadians were trying to put together all the stuff that the Sumerians left behind, because the Sumerians got wiped out in a reset. That is the very first still. We have many more to go. So, on the left, right here, this is the left seal. There's a lot happening here. This is Enki. You can tell you got rivers of water coming out. You have the Apkallu on the left and on the right. Enki is between the waters under the winged disc. This is not the sun. He gives divine instructions to the Abgal to protect mankind. The Abgal are stewards of the secrets of Enki, benefactors, and possess the buckets of living water. The oldest depictions found of the buckets being held by anybody are on Sumerian and Akkadian seals of Enki. And they're in the possession of the Apkallu that Enki specifically created to stay behind and guide the affairs of men, because he knew he was going to disappear. You can see him clear as day. In Sumerian, these are not handbags, they are buckets. On the right, again, a lot happening here. This is the tree of life. This is the tree of life. These are not gods on the left and on the right. These are the kings of men. Enki has made his ascent. Enki is now in the sky, but he left behind the secrets to the tree of life, to the kings of the world, to guide humanity. And to help them do their job, he left behind the Apkallu to fulfill their office as Umanu. Umanu means they are counselors of the king, of kingship. The Apkallu, which have the bird masks on and the wings, they hold the buckets of Enki. Everything Enki left behind, the divine instructions, the living water, the secrets, everything is in the possession of the guardians, the Apkallu. The Apkallu do not serve individual kings. They serve kingship. So, a lot happening here. On the right, Enki is on a winged object having ascended into the sky. See if I can't center that more there. Ascending, leaving behind his Abgal to minister the human kings as benefactors of civilization. He has given them the tree of life, depicted as a date palm. Living water of Enki is received by the human kings, supported by the Abgal. This is the second still. Let's move forward. Okay. Again, on the left, before Enki's departure, his Apkallu receive his living water and divine instructions. They wear the mantle of ancient civilization bringing mariners, so popular in ancient traditions. They hold the buckets as symbols of their stewardship of possessing divine secrets and authority. These are the Apkallu left behind to serve human kingship. So remember, they are from the underworld. They are Utu-Abzu. They are brothers of the deep, where Enki came from. This is Enki on the far left. How do we know? He is issuing forth the water of life. The Apkallu are receiving it on the left. On the right here, the Apkallu are administering to a human king. Very simple. These seals are very simple. So, on the right, you can still see the Apkallu. They're wearing their little fish suits, meaning they came from the deep. The fish suit is interesting because the Apkallu are brothers Utu-Abzu. They came from the deep. The fish suit is just an acknowledgement by ancient cultures that they came from the sea. Remember, Enki, the traditions of Enki is that he came out of the underworld. But the fact is that on all the reliefs, he came by ship. So if he came out of the underworld, he came out somewhere far away, which supports the origin, the Sumerian origin story, because the Sumerians themselves said they're not from that area. They came by way of Dilmun. Dilmun is an island off Bahrain in the Persian Gulf, and their megalithic architecture has been found there in abundance. The Sumerians believe that their civilization bringers came from that island, Dilmun, but it was by way of Dilmun because they actually came from somewhere far away. But it was Dilmun that they used as a staging area when they began building civilization in Egypt, in northern Syria, in Anatolia, Hittite, in Mari, Mitanni, in Urartu among the Hurrians, in Elam, which became Persia, Mohenjo-Daro, in Pakistan and northern India, and in the Tigris-Euphrates basin, which became Sumer, Akkad, Babylon, and Assyria. This is the origin story of the Near East. So on the right, we have Enki has departed into the sky and leaves behind him the divine instructions on a pillar that the Apkallu associate to the tree of life. Saluting Enki's departure, you see the Apkallu are saluting him. Saluting his departure, the Apkallu begin their career as Umanu, or counselors to the 7 kings of Sumer. Enki's disappearance is what starts the Sumerian king list. They hold the buckets as badges of their office. Again, can't miss those buckets. They're not in the possession of human kings. Human rulers do not possess these buckets. These buckets are always in the possession of the guardians, the Apkallu, not kings, not priests and sorcerers and none of that. The Apkallu are 7 divine guardians. Kind of makes you want to go back and study Easter Island. You know the giant heads where they hold the big old hats in Easter Island? What do we know about Easter Island? Well, we know that the top of volcano from which they got all the volcanic rock to build those heads, we know that archaeologists, all the way back to the days of Thor Heyerdahl, has found a very peculiar throne at the top of the volcano at Easter Island. That throne has 7 chairs. So, let's see. So that's that right there. You can see here is this is a stylized depiction of the tree of life as a palm tree. But it's also concealing a deeper image here. And that image is the pillar. What is a pillar? It's a dismembered tree. This is all going somewhere. But the guardians, this is a part of the esoteric knowledge of the Apkallu. Enoch, and this right here shows that Enki is now gone. The Apkallu have been left behind to guide human affairs through its rulers. Kingship. This is why kingship is so important in the Sumerian traditions. All right, let's go to the next still. So I was showing you Oannes. I believe that was Oannes. Let me see real quick. Yeah. Okay. So I need to show you this little deal. Anybody can find this out for yourself. But Enki is absolutely no different than about 1,000 years later, he was called Oannes in Babylon, which isn't a far departure from the Akkadian. He was Enki, Lord of the Earth, in Sumerian, but in Akkadian he was Ea, E-A. But the E-A in Akkadian becomes Oanni or Owanu in Babylonian. The later Greeks immortalized the name as Oannes. This is what you have. So yes, the Babylonian god Ea, who is Enki, the one who flew away, is considered to be the same being as Oannes, a mythical figure who taught human civilization from the sea. All right. Let's move to the next seal now, because this is the same story in Babylon. You're looking at pictures of Enki, Ea, Oannes. It's all the same individual. It's different cultures acknowledging the same ancient personality. What do you see about the so-called handbag here when you look at 3-dimensional statues of Oannes? It's not a handbag anymore, is it? And even in Babylon, it's not normal kings anymore. I mean, it's not normal kings. It's not normal humans. No, they are wearing the mantle of the Apkallu. These are fish garments. And over the passage of thousands of years, these garments change and they become more and more stylized. Toward the end of this video, we'll show you how the Vatican turned these symbols upside down. Now, this is Enki in Babylonian memory. He's holding a bucket, not a handbag. This is a clear 3-dimensional bucket. Here's an old depiction of Oannes right here, wearing his fish deal. He also is holding this object that looks like a pine cone and the bucket. Again, there's the bucket in Assyrian release. This Assyrian version actually has a fish on the fish mantle. 23 centuries ago, Berosus wrote that the first of the Apkallu, left behind by Enki, appeared 432,000 shars before the flood. As the Typhon flood of Noah was 2239 BC, as shown many times in Archaix, this means Oannes appeared 1,200 years before the Noahic flood. So this is 3439 BC. We've been through this many times. The 432,000 years of the Anunnaki, the shards of the Anunnaki, we've covered this ad nauseum. It's only 12 centuries. And this 12 centuries is mentioned in many ancient traditions. It's actually 2 Anunnaki Nur. A Nur is 216,000 days. It is precisely 600 years. It is the great year of the ancient Sumerian texts. So a 600-year period and a 600-year period was 2 Nur. That's 432,000 days, turnings of the stars. So we have the first of the Apkallu called Oannes appearing at this time. This is the Babylonians trying to put history back together. Remember, by the time of Babylon, there's been 2 resets since Sumer. So Oannes emerged from the sea and was represented as wearing a fish cloak. Scholars report that Oannes holds a bucket. That's not Jason telling you that. I'm not trying to get you to look at pictures and say, hey, doesn't that look like a bucket? No, I'm telling you now that if you do enough homework, you'll find out that scholarship has already determined it's not a handbag. It is a bucket. So Oannes is representative of Enki, Lord of the divine waters. He holds a date palm that in Babylonia represented the tree of life and was anciently called the phoenix palm. That's what this object is. It is not a pine cone. It doesn't have anything to do with the pineal gland. This is not what we've been told all over the world, especially like in Vatican Square when you see the statue. We're going to get to that toward the end of the video. Actually, Whit sent me some pretty profound pictures because it's directly linked not to the pine tree, but to the phoenix palm, and proof that the Vatican imagery was obfuscated and they deliberately tried to conceal imagery is found in the fact that peacocks are all around this fountain, and that this fountain used to eject fountains of water like the Enki imagery, but all of that was hidden in Vatican Square. And everybody knows who's seen my channel, especially if you reviewed my video on Ketub, the peacock angel is the phoenix. We'll get to that. So this is Oannes. This is the Babylonian founder this is the founder of Babylonian pre-flood civilization. This is the faith of the Babylonian people. When they saw this, they had faith that their creator had not just left them behind, didn't just disappear into the sky and leave them without help. Their creator left behind 7 semi-divine beings in this world that would guide them through their kingship and make sure that they always had access to the divine information that would lead them to eternal life. This is what all the Apkallu were possessing, the secrets of immortality. Not in the physical avatar, as we'll show in the seals, but in something else, in like a world beyond. Let's go to the next one. Thank you, Third Space. Love you, man. So, just for clarity, here is 3439 BC, as I've shown in numerous presentations, how the Book of Enoch gives us all kinds of chronological clues, and that the Watchers appeared. Remember, the 7 builder gods, the 7 Anunnaki, the 7 Watchers, the 7 divine beings, the 7 mountain gods. Different cultures recorded them differently, but there's always 7. Also calls them the 7 sages. So these are the builders of the old world. And we have 3439 BC. 1/3 of the entire world is destroyed in the Gihon flood. Remember when Enki appeared? We saw it on the Sumerian seal. When Enki appeared in an actual text that was supposed to have been written by Enki in cuneiform and translated, and it's in many, many books, it literally says that when Enki appeared, he looked over the world and saw that there was much flooding. I've shown this in my published books. So, Here is 3439 BC. It's exactly 2 Ner, 600 years and 600 years to the Great Flood, 2239 BC. Here is the 300-year reign of Enoch. Enoch sure sounds like Enki, doesn't it? Well, let's explore that here in a little while. Because during Enoch's reign, all the most epic calendars of the ancient world suddenly appeared. The Maya Itza Temple of the Cross calendar, the Mayan long count calendar, the Brahmanic Kali Yuga calendar, the Sumerian Etana. This is crazy, guys. Remember I said this on this chart drawn like 20 years ago. The scholars date Etana. Etana reigned around 3100 BC. Remember that because we have some amazing things to tell you about Etana. Scorpion King, 3100 BC. The Egyptian Narmer palette is right here. All these are dated at the exact same time when Enoch was alive. Right here. Before Enoch ascended into heaven. So, Berosus, from a total, remember, if something is true, you're always going to see it from multiple different vantage points. That's what we're doing here. But Berosus' own king list matches a Sumerian prism that was found that shows that 7 kings ruled before the flood, and they ruled for 241,200 shars, which, if you go by the shar count chronology, this is a day count system. Each shar is a turning of the stars. Therefore, 241,200 shars of 7 kings who are ministered by 7 Abgal. That period of time is only 670 years before the flood. And we're going to find in this presentation that Enoch ascended into heaven exactly 670 years before the flood. And it's what started kingship in the Sumerian king lists. But from a totally different vantage point, Berosus shows us the exact dating in a totally different way. Because remember, Genesis has a 7 patriarch chronology. Remember that. Enoch is in both of them. Enoch is in the 7 patriarch chronology of the Cainites, and in the Sethite lineage, he's the 7th from Adam in Genesis. But it's a 10 patriarch chronology, like 10 kings of Babylon before the flood. Berosus gives us the shar counts for all the reigns of the 10 kings, showing us that the 10th king is Noah. This is the Babylonian name for Noah. Xisuthros, right here. He's the survivor of the flood. He was the king of the Sumerian city of Shuruppak, the fifth city in the Sumerian Pentapolis, ruled by the 7 kings of Sumer. Adding up all these shars, we get the exact same thing we get right here with all the ancient traditions that the gods appeared 432,000 years before the flood. In Berosus, we have the Anunnaki appeared 432,000 shars before the flood. It's right here. And here's how the shars add up. But if you go by the shar system, it's just 2 Ner. It's 1,200 years. So Orientalist scholars cite traditions of belief in Great Year as a day of 600 years, followed by a night of 600 years, for a total of 1,200 year cycle. In the ancient pre-Muslim Arabic traditions about the pre-flood world, we have Ashidad of Arabic traditions who lived 1,200 years before the flood, and he built Iram of the columns. The pyramid complex, Iram, is a root in pyramid. Pyramids were never called pyramids until the days of the Greeks. Before that, they were called columns. They were the columns and the pillars in Egypt that held up the sky. So they were built by the race of Ad. Ad were pre-flood giants. Josephus links the 600-year period to the pillars that the Sethites built before the flood. We're going to read that passage in Josephus. So the 670 years of the Sumerian king list actually begins when Enki departs. Enki, you saw Enki on the seals on the wings. He flies up into the sky, leaving behind the Apkallu. What do the Apkallu do? They instantly institute divine kingship in Sumer, and the first of 7 kings till the flood begins to rule. This chart was designed to show you that in the chronological record, the 7 kings of Sumer almost perfectly match the dragon kings of ancient China, who also ruled right before the flood. And the Dragon King dynasty ended with the Great Flood, just as the Anunnaki 7 kings ended at the Great Flood. Here are the 2 circles that show how almost perfect. This is Chinese dating. This is not Jason dating. Look how perfect these circles are. Here's 2239 BC. The yellow ring is 670 years of the 8 pre-flood kings of Sumer. Let me qualify this. 7 kings ruled before the flood, but as soon as the 8th king sat on the throne, the flood wiped out Sumer, wiped out the world. The 8th king never finished his rule. This is why in the apocalyptic period in the book of Revelations, we have a riddle when the beast kingdom is established, and it specifically says, and there were 7 kings and 8. And the 8th is of the 7, and he will come back to rule the earth once more. He was never given his rule. So in the apocalyptic period in the book of Revelation of the beast kingdom, the 8th king, Apollyon, is going to return and get his rule that he was promised, which was interrupted by the flood. But his rule is going to be interrupted again after he rules for a period of about 30 years. And it's going to be interrupted by whatever the chief cornerstone returning actually is. So this is the 2. We have the yellow ring is the 670 years of the 8 pre-flood kings on the Sumerian king list prism. It is 241,200 shars. All you have to do with your cell phone is put in the number 241,200 and divide it by 360. Those are the number of days in an ancient year. When you do that, you get the number perfect. You don't even get a decimal. You get the perfect number, 670 years. Now, the white ring is precisely where Chinese scholars have the end of the 646-year Chinese Dragon King dynasty. They were called Dragon Kings because they were dragon-faced. And when you ask Chinese scholars, hey, why do they call the old kings dragon-faced? Chinese scholars will tell you, well, back in those times, the Chinese people could not grow facial hair. They had smooth skin like the ancient Egyptians, like the Native Americans. They didn't have facial hair. They couldn't grow. The dragon kings represented a new race. They were able to grow facial hair. They were very different. They had different colored skin. They were tall, different colored eyes than the Urubamba Valley people who had long, straight black hair and black eyes and olive skin in South America. The black-haired, straight black-haired and black-eyed Egyptians called the Melampides and the Cometians before the arrival of the Dragon Kings. Also in the Tigris-Euphrates basin, those people, they're called the people of the reeds. These people had long, straight black hair and black eyes and olive skin. The ancient Chinese Oriental people, black hair, black eyes, and olive skin. All of these people shared traditions that the civilization builders that visited them did not have their skin color, did not have their eye color, and they had hair on their faces, which made them very, very different. Quetzalcoatl, Viracocha, Bochica, Votan, they were all bearded civilization bringers, and they all arrived by ship. So this is the 2 different dynasties of the pre-flood world recorded by the Chinese, recorded by the Sumerians, ending at the exact same time. This patterning of kingship is replicated throughout history. I did a whole video on this chart showing the mathematical perfection of the historical record shows that we're in some type of computerized existence and there's no way that these events unfolded randomly. It is amazing. This 670 years of the pre-flood world right here started in 2909 BC. That's when the 670 years started, 2909 BC. Well, I'm going to tell you now, according to the biblical material, according to the biblical chronologist Stephen Jones and all the other chronologists that show that the Great Flood was 2239 BC, this means that Enoch was born in the year 3274 BC. And if that's the truth, then it's very interesting, because that means 365 years later was 2909 BC. Why is that important? Because Enoch is said to have ascended to heaven. Enoch left behind divine instructions for kings. He ruled over 130 kings and princes. But the biblical material says that Enoch lived for 365 years, and then he was taken into heaven by God, and he was not. Well, that sounds like Enki to me, because 365 years after the biblical dating of 3274 BC for the birth of Enoch, 365 years of Enoch ends in 2909 BC. And 2909 BC starts the 670 years of the Sumerian king list. You can't make this shit up. Everything is so perfect in the chronology. But the 670 years of kingship is replicated again. 1899 BC, massive destruction, a full reset, scattering all over the world, begins 670 years to the fall of Troy. Another reset, 1229 BC, the Great Mediterranean Dark Age begins. It lasts 400 years, 670-year period. But the fall of Troy also started another 670-year period to when Persia ended the sovereignty of the Near East that recorded all this history. The Near East that lived all this history, Persia ends it when it invades Babylon and takes over everything. Assyria, the Hittites, everything. 559 BC, Persia begins to rule at the end of this 670-year timeline. The math is just too perfect. It's just too perfect. I got a whole video on this if y'all want to see it. It's patterns within patterns within patterns. It's called Insane Evidence of Simulated Historical and Future Timelines. Matter of fact, the video is from this year. If one of my moderators wants to put the link to this video in there. Insane Evidence of Simulated Historical and Future Timelines. All right, so we're going to move on forward. So here is the Archaix chronology of the world, which starts in 5239 BC with the Anunnaki Ner system of 600-year periods. You can clearly see the 600-year periods here. You see them here. This is when they begin, 5239 BC. Each 600-year period marks a major event in human history, all the way through here. Then you have all these other calendars starting, like the Mayan long count right there. Here's 3439 BC, the Anuna civilization in North America. Remember, Enki come up from the underworld. However, it was also acknowledged in Sumerian and Akkadian text that Enki arrived by ship. So when he came up from the underworld, he came up from the underworld in North America, and he arrived with his fleets in Bahrain, at Dilmun. And then from Dilmun, staged to fleets that arrived in the Tigris-Euphrates, he became Oannes, the fish god that came up out of the sea, civilization bringer. So here's 3439 BC, the arrival of Enki, 432,000 shards. Here it is. Anuna civilization is 432,000 sky turnings to the Great Flood, 1,200 years. It begins the Technolithic period of 792 years. Technolithic is when the Great Pyramid was built and all this stuff. And then they suffered a reset. That's why you have this Mayan long count system beginning in 13 BC. The Anuna civilization didn't last that long. But then again, it didn't have to. It only takes 200 years to go from horse and buggy to Hadron Collider. So it's all in this chart. All the 7 kings ruled right here. This is the era of the 7 kings. This is the Great Flood, 2239 BC. This is the cursed earth system, 414-year periods right here. So there's a whole lot to unpack. There's a whole lot to unpack in this chart, but this I just wanted to show you where we're at. We're during the vapor canopy period right here is when the 7 kings ruled. So next still, Man, I'm doing pretty good for 1 hour.
It's already been an hour.
I can't believe how fast that hour went.
I think it's 3 hours today.
Oh man, I got some bombs to drop on you guys. It's insane what we're about to learn.
It's not even going yet.
It is insane what we're about to learn, guys. So here's the Apkallu holding this object. Here's a blow up of the object, and here are actual Sumerian jewelry that was excavated by Sir Leonard Woolley when he began excavating. I think it was Uruk 3 and Ur 2, but different excavations. So the title of this still is Date Palm, symbol for immortality and called the Phoenix Palm. The pine cone interpretation of this motif is an error. There is nothing of value, no fruit of the pine, and the pine has no special place in ancient Near East culture as far as religious. Now, for building purposes, everybody knows the cedars of Lebanon were amazing. They used to build ships out of the cedars of Lebanon. But as far as medicinal purposes and as far as all, the pine cone is just worthless compared to the date palm. The date palm, alternatively known as the phoenix palm, is used to represent divine things. The tree of life is depicted as a date palm. The dates are a major food source and ingredient in the Near East and Mediterranean even today. Not a single type of pine tree in the world produces fruit. Some beautiful jewelry, but these aren't pine cones. This is the date palm. It's just upside down because these are earrings. These are earring seals, actually. These are seals. You roll those. So here is imagery that shows you there is no mistaking the date palm for a pine tree. The reason there's no mistaking it, because here's an Apkallu right here. This is a date palm. It's like a date palm forest. Every single one of these frondils right here represents a different tree, and the date palm itself represents the, the tree of life. And the tree of life represents a pillar, and the pillar is covered with information. There's a lot to unpack. This is the Apkallu. No human kings here. These are the guardians of kingship holding this bucket. And this is a date palm in his hand. Again, no mistaking. It's not a pine tree. These are date palms. So I'm just clarifying because there's a lot of people claiming these are pine cones. So again, Assyrian art is pretty graphic. These Assyrians have cut off the heads of their enemies. You see the pile of heads down here. These guys are dead. But in the background, you see the date palm. That date palm is identical to what you're seeing here. Damn it. These date palms here are identical to what you're seeing here. There's no difference. Here's actual photographs of the fronds of date palms. Man, my sinuses are killing me right now. Texas weather sucks. It's been cold for like 5 days. Today it's getting warm. So you can see this that's a date palm right there. It looks a lot like a pine cone. You can't mistake that. It looks a lot like a pine cone. This is a Sumerian seal. That little guy right there is Enki. Enki is on. Look at that. That's a phoenix. Enki, but the phoenix's wings look like date palm. And you see this stylized in art a lot. This is the phoenix palm. And this is inky ascending into the sky. Here's a good one here. That's a date palm. That's what the Apkallu have in their hand. Oh, this is going to get so good, guys. Somehow I'm way at the beginning chat. I need pine needle tea. I'm probably tearing up and my throat's itching because I just talked bad about the pine tree. And I live in pine country. There's nothing but pine trees here. Pine trees wouldn't have done well in a lot of the places in the ancient world where the date palm thrives, like deserts. Pine trees don't grow in deserts. Now, so I did a video, The Great Lie of the Church, the date palm, resurrection in Egypt, 33 AD, and how the church fathers stole the phoenix. In this video, I'm just going to recap right here because it's very relevant to this study. In this video, one of my moderators, please put the link to this video in the chat a couple times. But we find that the Bennu bird of Egypt was linked to the phoenix and is also the name for the palm tree, the same meaning also found in the Greek. The ancient historian Horapollo wrote that the Egyptians used the palm tree as a symbol for a year because of its 12 branches. A branch signifies a month. Tell Graham Hancock that. The date palm was a symbol for calendar keeping. The phoenix was a symbol of victory, of eternal life, and paradise, where the redeemed have received their palm of victory. Remember, to he who overcometh, I will make him a pillar in the temple of my God. What is a pillar? It's a column. What is a pillar? It is a dismembered tree. We'll get to that a little later. The date palm was a symbol of fertility, and the Greeks specifically linked it to the phoenix. The date palm was called the phoenix palm and used to make beer. I knew I loved phoenix for something. Used to make medicine, rooftops, and bandages. And finally, the date palm was a symbol for resurrection and shelter, eternal life and protection. Its ability to thrive in the desert made it seemingly immortal. That's all in this video here. Move on. Now we get to the Enoch tradition. We've already seen parallels because the chronological record screams out Enoch when we see the parallels. But now let's get into the Enoch tradition. Because in my very first public book, I made my case that Enoch before the flood is the same as Etana, is the same as Enki, is the same as Oannes. We're gonna review that in this still right here. My very first book, The Lost Scriptures of Giza, not only covers what we're going to talk about right here, but actually goes in overkill to prove all these points. This is just a synoptic outline. Enoch was a seer, a scribe, a mathematician, a chronologist, and an architect who ascended to heaven 670 years before the flood. Can't make that up. It's the same thing as the Sumerian king list. 241,200 shars is 670 years. What is the king list? It is when kingship was given to humanity by Enki, who created the Apkallu to guide those kings to shepherd over the people. Enoch was a mediator between mankind and the Watchers and delivered to his people the secrets of the future. The Watchers are like some people call them angels. Some people call them you already know Ancient Aliens calls them aliens. But the Watchers, I believe, are the custodial society that has been running things from the underworld from the very beginning. Hence, they watch. They monitor. In In the book of Sirach, this is not in the Bible. In the book of Sirach, we read, "But upon the earth was no man created like Enoch, for he was taken from the earth." In the book of Enoch, the seer had a vision of a blessed place, of two mountains and a third of lower elevation, the Giza pyramid complex. He described it as a dismembered tree, a place of future judgment. In the book of Jasher, the people gathered before the flood and they asked Enoch to rule over them. They assembled all 130 kings and princes, and they were all under his power and command. Enoch was the first emperor. In the book of Jasher, Enoch gave the people divine instructions, and he said unto them, "I have been required to ascend unto heaven. I therefore do not know the day of my going." And lastly, in the book of the secrets of Enoch, once Enoch ascended, all the sons of Enoch made and erected an altar at the place called Archaix, whence and where Enoch had been taken to heaven. This is about to get deep. Archaix of Enoch is Giza in Egypt. Enoch's vision of two great mountains and a third of lower elevation in the book of Enoch cannot be mistaken for anything else but the two great pyramids of Egypt and the third of lesser elevation. This is what Enoch saw in the book of Enoch in his vision. And I saw two mountains and a third of lower elevation. He was having a vision, and he saw in the last days that the souls were gathered. And the souls were made to descend into a cleft between the two mountains, and then judgment began. These are also known in ancient times as the Pillars of Siriad. 2,000 years ago, Josephus wrote that the antediluvian Sethites, remember Enoch was the seventh in line of the Sethite lineage. Remember also in previous Archaix presentations, I've showed you that the Sethites in Egyptian Book of the Dead are the children of Set. They are those who possess the secrets of Typhon, the phoenix. The children of Set were hated by the Egyptians. The children of Set had power over the ladder of Set. The ladder is just an Egyptian symbol for ascension. This is what Josephus wrote. The Sethites were the inventors of a peculiar sort of wisdom, which is concerned with the heavenly bodies and their order, and that their inventions might not be lost before they were sufficiently known. Upon Adam's prediction that the world was to be destroyed at one time by the force of fire, at another time by the violence and quantity of water, they made two pillars. Remember, the word pyramid is of late invention. They were originally called pillars. They made two pillars, the one of brick, the other of stone. They inscribed their discoveries upon them both, that in case the pillar of brick should be destroyed by the flood, the pillar of stone would remain, and exhibit these discoveries to mankind, and also inform them that there was another pillar of brick erected by them. Now this remains in the land of Siriad. Josephus brackets it and says Sirius to this day. Now, many pyramid researchers in the 19th century, this is the 1800s, they linked the Siriadic columns to this passage in the book of Isaiah. In that day shall there be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt. Did we not just say that Enoch's people built an altar at Akuzan at the exact spot that Enoch ascended? In that day shall there be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border thereof to the Lord. And it shall be for a sign and witness. A witness is a testimony unto the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt. Many researchers, not me, before I was born, there was already Gavin Menzies, Adam Rutherford, Charles Piazzi Smith, John Taylor, David Davidson, H. Aldersmith. There were already pyramid researchers, E. Raymond Capt, that already, Noah Hutchinson, I know a bunch of them. All these pyramid researchers had already concluded that Isaiah chapter 19, verse 19 is about the Great Pyramid in Egypt, and that it was an altar of Adam built in the pre-flood time by the Sethites. It's in the midst of the land of Egypt at Giza. Giza is a word from Gizai, and it means the stalk of a tree. It also comes from a root, guz, which means border. So we have, it is a pillar. A pyramid is a pillar at the border thereof to the Lord. But the Hebrew word for border may be a play on words. Not a physical border to God, but a border, a barrier that's erected right now that keeps you from God. It's a different type of border. So, and it shall be for a sign and a witness. A witness is a testimony. The reason I am reiterating this is because in my book, Lost Scriptures of Giza, I show all the ancient records that said that a testimony from God was written on the land of Egypt. So we have to remember the biblical material does say refer to a testimony unto the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt. So let's move on. So what better place to learn about the secret history of Enoch and the Great Pyramid than Egypt? I don't know why more people don't know this, but the Egyptian Coptic proof that Enoch designed the Great Pyramids comes straight out of Egypt. In the British Museum manuscript number 7861, called History of Egypt, we have an Egyptian Coptic account that reads, Surid, one of the kings of Egypt before the flood, built the two great pyramids. That the reason for building the pyramids was the following dream. The earth was overthrown, and that the inhabitants were laid prostrate upon it. Remember the song? Black Nemesis, Parthenogenesis. I can't remember, but in that song, it says, when Nemesis appears, everybody lays prostrate. You can't nobody move until the dead come home. Remember that? I love that song. So anyway, that the reason for building the pyramids was the following dream. The earth was overthrown, and that the inhabitants were laid prostrate upon it, and that the fixed stars wandered confusedly from their courses and clashed together with a tremendous noise. He saw the fixed stars descend upon the earth in the form of white birds, and seizing the people, enclosed them in a cleft between the two mountains, which shut upon them. Early in the morning, he assembled the priests from all the nomes of Egypt, 130 in number. No other persons were admitted to this assembly. The interpretation was declared to announce that some great event was to take place. Did you see that number? Surid ruled over the 130 nomes of Egypt. What did the book of Jasher say? Enoch ruled over 130 kings and princes. And when he ascended, they built for him an altar at the site called Akuzan, which has the root Giza in it. After the assembly, Surid ordered the pyramids to be built. and the predictions of the priests to be inscribed upon columns, pillars, and upon the large stones belonging to them, the pillars, the pyramids. And he placed within them his treasures and all his valuable property, together with the bodies of his ancestors. He also ordered the priests to deposit within them written accounts of their wisdom and achievements in the different arts and sciences, the writings of their forefathers, likewise the positions of the stars and their circles, together with the history and chronicles of times past and that which is to come, and to every future event. The Coptic traditions claim the pyramids were assigned a guardian. This would be the Sphinx. In the 1880s, Gerald Massey, his book is called Ancient Egypt, Light of the World. It's huge. He wrote that Surid derived from the Egyptian designation Seret, which means keeper, measurer, or builder. So we have Enoch and Surid are the same individual. You must remember this because it's critical when we get to the legend of Etana, the most ancient Sumerian seals, or the Etana seals. And it's really unusual about what we find about Etana. But Enoch ruled over 130 kings and princes. Surid ruled over the 130 nomes of Egypt. Wait till you hear about Etana. In the divine Pymander, this is Hermes is the Greek Enoch. Even the Greeks have an Enoch, an Enki, and Oannes. In the divine Pymander text, we read, Hermes, he understanding all things, who also saw the whole of things together, and having seen, considered them, and having considered them was powerful to explain and show them. For what he understood, he committed to characters, concealing the most part. That's key here. We have a Greek Enoch who is able to disseminate complex information, but conceal its meaning to those he's conveying it to. Concealing the most part, being silent with wisdom, in speaking opportunity, in order that in all the duration of the world thereafter should search out these things, and thus having ordered the gods, his brethren, to become his escort, he ascended towards the constellations. Syncellus wrote that Hermes erected stone stelae before the flood that contained the arcane knowledge of astronomy. In the Syrian chronicle of Bar-Hebraeus, we find that Hermes invented letters, types of architecture, built cities, established laws, and taught astronomy and the true worship of God. Bar-Hebraeus even refers to Hermes as the Enoch of Scripture. That's pretty good. I mean, here we have a 1,000-year-old testimony affirming what we're talking about in this video. Cedrinus in the 11th century AD wrote that Hermes was the Enoch of the Bible, writing that Hermes, foreseeing the destruction of the world, had inscribed the science of astronomy upon two pillars, one of stone to resist the element of water, the other of brick to withstand fire. Two great pyramids. So Cosimo de Medici of Florence, famous guy, he was an antiquarian. He collected all these writings he sent agents all over Rome to collect these writings. And he found a huge body of work about Hermes spread through all the private libraries of Europe. And the Medicis had the money, so he bought copies of them. What he put together has come down in history known as Corpus Hermeticum. In the Corpus Hermeticum, this is what we read. The gods send forth many souls clothed in flesh, so that men could survey heaven, the paths of the heavenly gods, the work of God and the activity of nature, so that they should know the signs of what is good, the power of God and the turning of fate of good and evil things, and discover all the marvelous works of good men. So men began, leaving great memorials of their work on earth. Their name remains until the darkening of ages. In my research, I've shown many times, it's in my books, that the word name is interchangeable in the old Semitic languages. Name also means monument. So when you put your shim somewhere, it was a pillar. It's called a shim, but it's also called your name, because the pillar is what marked you. This is your boundary. It's a boundary stone. And even in Hebrew, shim means name and monument or architectural structure. It does not mean what Zechariah Sitchin says. It has nothing to do with rocket ship at all. So now we get to Etana, where things get really intriguing. The oldest seals are of Etana. All right. A lot happening in these seals. So, the oldest seals are of Etana. The Etana epos is one of the most obscure and oldest traditions. Etana was a shepherd king of Kish. After the flood, who ascended into the sky on either a giant eagle or a thunderbird to find a plant of birth. Etana, on the Sumerian king list, ruled for 1,560 years. The Etana seals show him ascending into the sky. This is Etana. These are Etana seals. I'm not naming those Etana. Scholars did that. It's the same thing as Enki flying into the sky on a phoenix. But the Etana seals are older, and they show that the bird looks like a phoenix. Anyway, the confusion about Etana concerns the reference to the flood. Etana's reign was after the Gihon flood of 3439 BC, not the Typhon flood of Noah in 2239 BC. That's the problem with Near Eastern scholarship. They automatically assume all references to a flood are the biblical Noahic flood, the flood of Archaix, and they're not. There are many texts that talk about a much older flood before that. It is the Gihon flood, 3439 BC, exactly 12 centuries before the Typhon flood of Noah, 432,000 turnings of the stars being between them. Etana's ascent into heaven on a giant bird mirrors the Enoch account, and ascending into the sky mirrors Enoch. But the real proof of a connection is the 1,560 years. Enoch and Surid both ruled over 130 kingdoms or nomes, and 1,560 lunar reckoning here makes 1,560 lunar years to be exactly 130 solar years, as per Manetho, Eudoxus, Diodorus, Plutarch, Eusebius, Herodotus, Lactantius, and Macrobius. The exact same way that we accurately date Atlantis is the exact same way we accurately date the old Sumerian dates. This is how it's done. Not the later Shar count. This is the Phoenix palm dating. This is why the Phoenix palm, the date palm, is continually showed. Over and over, we find that they use the palm as their source for a calendar. We'll show that in a minute. So if you take your calculator and you take 1,560, this is months. Each frond represents a month on the Phoenix palm. If you take 1,560 with your calculator on your phone and divide it by 12, you get 130 solar years. The oldest depictions of the bucket commonly referred to as handbags, are found on the ancient Etana seals. The bucket is not held in the hands of the Apkallu yet, because Etana, Enki, Enoch has not yet ascended, which is the event that begins the Sumerian king list 241,200 shars, or 670 years before the deluge. This is the Etana seals are the first representations in Sumerian iconography of the bucket, and it's not held in a hand. This is Etana before his ascension. This is Etana as the shepherd king. He's the good shepherd. He's taking care of the flock. Here they are. His flock is humanity. As he is on earth, his symbol is hanging from his staff. What is a staff? It's a pillar. Here it is right here. One of the oldest depictions of the handbag bucket motif ever found is on Sumerian Etana seals. But this is where we start going deep. This is not the revelation. This is the introduction to understanding what the hell we're seeing. This is Etana before his ascension. Right here on the left. On the left, that's what it is before his ascension. On the right, he is ascending, and the animals are looking up, and the humans looking up, watching him leave. Again, Etana seal. In the Etana seal, right here, we have, it's clearly seen right here, we have Etana on the phoenix leaving. As he's leaving, over here, there's a god. The god is in the sky. The god is working on pottery. It's on a pot. But we'll get to that. I just want to show you that it's in the earlier seals. Over here, we have the same thing. The story of Etana is attached to these gods and what they're doing in the sky. One god is making pottery. The other one's doing some type of selection process. But yeah, I do want to focus on the 1,560. You got to understand how important it is. This is a calendrical link that identifies Enki. The traditions of Enki are also the traditions of Enoch. They are one of the same. And now we have bridged Etana. Etana is Enoch. He is Enki. He is Oannes. This 1,560 year period was confusing. Remember, every single historical text is a post-reset composition. They were trying to figure things out. And they were using different calendrical systems to do it in different time periods. So when Etana's rule was put down as 1,560 years, it was actually, well, shars, it was, not shars, in years in the Berosus account, we actually have the date palm method, which is what was used by the ancient Egyptians, who called the date palm the phoenix palm. And they put them up in the mansion of the phoenix, where the Bin stone was protected. The mansion of the phoenix was outside of Heliopolis, right at the edge of the Great Pyramid complex. You can't make this shit up. Every bit of that's verifiable. And the gardens of the mansion of the phoenix were all date palms. This is the origin of the Egyptian calendar. They did not count years. They only counted months. And the Egyptians got that calendar from somebody further back in the past. Well, 1,560 years of Etana divided by the date palm reckoning of the Egyptian Sais calendar gives us our perfect 130 solar years, which matches the 130 reference to Enoch and the 130 reference to Sarid. So now we have the full spectrum. We have Enki, Enoch, Sarid, Oannes. This individual left us something of epic importance, left it to guardians who watch humanity from the underworld. They are brothers of the deep. He ascends and leaves. leaving behind kingship. Now man's not living as a savage. Now he's civilized, and he has all kinds of good things and bounty, and civilization brings many amenities. But he also leaves something of spiritual value to the human family. And the guardians are to instruct kingship, to help them disseminate this information to the people. So we have Enki left the divine instructions, just like Enoch and Sarid, on how to build the Great Pyramid Complex and what it stood for. So let's move on to the next still. This is the actual tablet of Etana, the Etana Epos. I just wanted to show you this tablet. This is the actual cuneiform tablet that tells you that Etana ruled for 1,560 years, which is actually 130 solar years. Now, we're getting to the juicy. The ancient Etana seals show the bucket. Remember, we've moved way far away from handbags and all that now. It's the bucket, and it always has been. Look at these seals. Every seal here by scholarship are called Etana seals. Here's an Etana seal. Etana on the phoenix is ascending, or he disappears during a phoenix event. Pottery. Why is pottery suddenly appearing? Just random pots. Pottery. A god in the sky is making a pot. In the next one, we have Etana ascending into the sky as humans down here watch him do. Animals down here look up and see him. And as Etana is ascending, pots, different types of vases and containers and pots are being prepared by this god. This god is making these pots. This god is selecting. Do you see these circles? Scholars don't even know what these represent. It's all guesswork. They have no idea. There's so many different opinions about these circles because they're so unusual. So they always default to ritual and astronomy, and neither one of them qualify because these seals all have different numbers. It's not the same number, and it's not numbers attached to anything that we know from ancient astronomy. This god is selecting circles to go in the pots. And this right here is showing that the guy that's leaving the earth is this guy here, the original shepherd king. He's the good shepherd who watches out for his sheep. But he leaves the world behind once the vessels are ready. These pots are being prepared. Here is what was left behind by Etana. Here's a bucket left behind. It's not in the possession of anybody yet because he's just now leaving. But here's the bucket that contains all this divine instructions. And who is Enki? He's the Lord of the living waters. That's that seal. Here's a blow up to show you this is a bucket. All right. So here's we already saw this one. Here's Enki. Here is Enki. Here are the little circles up here being selected. Here's the potter. Pots are being prepared again. Here is Etana. This is Etana as the good shepherd. Here's Etana taking. That's a phoenix right there. Look at that, bro. You can't call that an eagle. Yeah, the oldest depictions look like phoenix. It's the later Neo-Babylonian, Neo-Assyrian that look like eagles. Just like the phoenix was the great seal of the United States till 1902. And in 1902, they quietly changed the great seal from the phoenix to the eagle, the bald eagle.
The neck appears to get longer as we go back in time as well.
Yep. So here is Etana ascending into the sky as the vessels are prepared. here is what he left behind. Here's what he left behind. These will be symbols for guardians. These two creatures, and then then the Apkallu right here come into possession of what Etana leaves behind. All right, so I'm trying to fit that. All right, that's the best I can fit it. So in the Etana seals, you can clearly see there's no eagle. On the left, that is a phoenix. Over the divine tree, that is a phoenix. On the right, that is a phoenix that he's riding. There's no mistaking that for an eagle. That's Etana ascending into the sky. This is Etana as a shepherd king guiding over the sheep. Here, another one of the most ancient depictions of the bucket. It's before anybody's holding it. It's before it was even given to the Apkallu. Here is the bucket that contains all the secrets of Etana. In Enki, the living water. Above, you can't mistake this. This is a potter's wheel. This is a god, the potter, using a potter's wheel to make vessels. And another god right here. This is another god in the sky. See, he's not on the ground. It's a god in the sky who is selecting something to be put in vessels after Etana ascends. Well, on the bottom, I've got the Etana seals show Etana ascending into heaven on a giant bird, leaving behind the bucket to those who watch him ascend. All right. Let's see. Where am I at? On the bottom. Here's another Etana seal. And it gets clearer and clearer what's happening now. Here are Etana has ascended. Here are the buckets left behind. Etana doesn't take the bucket. He has left it behind. They watch him leave. Vessels have now been prepared everywhere. Look at all these vessels. On the far right of this, here's the potter making vessels. Here's another god, a selection process. Look how what he's selecting is being dropped into the vases. Here it is. This is the far left is just the far right over again. This is a seal. It's completely round. The fact that these seals have phoenix is very interesting because in the book of Revelation, we find out in the breaking of the seals, the fifth seal after the four horsemen, the fifth seal is an altar. Inside that altar are souls of people who are crying out to God because they have been unjustly slain. And they're asking God, when is the time of our redemption in the fifth seal? And God tells them, just be patient, for the hour is upon us. And that's when the sixth seal is broken. In the book of Revelation, the sixth seal, these are seals. The book of Revelation speaks in very ancient terms and imagery, like the seven kings of Sumer are in the book of Revelation. So the sixth seal is broken, and when it does, the sun turns black as sackcloth of hair. The moon turns red. Mighty earthquake shakes the foundations of the world, and the kings and the princes and the mighty of the world hide in the caves and the mountains, and then there's a cataclysm. It's the return of Phoenix, the sixth seal. It is Mother Shipton's sixth sky dragon. But we've got a whole bunch of videos on the sixth seal. But these are seals. Seals are the mode of communication, communicating divine things in the ancient world. In the book of Revelation, in the modern world, is our blueprint of ancient information being concealed through the medium of seals all over again. So, all right. Did I do this one? Yeah, I've already got that one. I got that one. This is the blow up of the buckets. Here's the phoenix. We got all that. We have God. We have a God as a potter making vessels and another God selecting what goes in those vessels after the work of Etana is done. Enoch, after the work of Enoch is done, after the work of Enki is done, Oannes, Hermes, it's all the same. This is a massive selection process, putting things in clay pots. Look at this one. This is a really good one here. Look at that. Look at that seal. Look how clear this one is.
Oh yeah.
You see this guy making this one's making pots. Making pots. Here's another God selection process, selecting what goes into these vessels.
Baby Cheerios into the bowls.
Baby Cheerios. Be quiet.
Bowls.
And that's a phoenix. That's a phoenix right there, no doubt. Wow. Etana is left on the phoenix. So let's move forward. The potter preparing for a new race. Let's look at these seals in a different way now. Here are the seals. I'm going to read to you Job 38:14. Well, I got to keep this like this. It is changed like clay under the seal, and its features stand out like a garment. This is a seal, like Phoenix, the sixth seal. Job chapter 38, verse 14. Admittedly, the oldest book in the Bible. All biblical scholars will tell you Job doesn't even belong in the Bible. It's not even Hebrew. Job is from a former time period, and it's a very ancient text that was incorporated into the more recent biblical material, Book of Job. So it is changed like clay under the seal, and its features stand out like a garment. Remember Book of Revelation, Christian mysteries. To he who overcometh will I make him a pillar in the temple of my God, and I will give him a white stone with a new name. And it says, to he who overcometh will I give him new raiment and a white robe. This is all in this imagery. It is changed like clay under the seal, and its features stand out like a garment. Remember, a seal is only made, the seals were made by pressing it into soft clay. And the seal always had an image of whatever the message was being conveyed. When you remove the seal, it would be in the soft clay. And then you burned the clay in a kiln. You had to apply friction and heat in order for it to be preserved, for it to have value. And the clay was hardened and the message was preserved. This imagery and these ideas are why we have references in the biblical material to, like, I will implant upon you the seal of the living God. And it talks about basically the redeemed don't have to worry about the great tribulation. It literally says that just like those who have agreed to the beast, the mark of the beast, have the seal of Apollyon, there's a whole nother body of people in the apocalyptic period that are marked with the seal of the living God. And they are immune. They're not even experiencing all this stuff everybody else is experiencing. Their experience is totally different because they have been sealed. Isaiah 64:8. But now, O Lord, you are our Father. We are the clay, and you are our potter. We are all the work of your hand. What you're seeing in the seals of Etana is that the Anunnaki gods realized that they had made previous mistakes in creating different varieties of the human species. And they realized we need to make avatars that are commiserate with the immense spirit that we plan to put in the new people. This God is the potter, and he's making pots, which are avatars, that another God has these circles, which are cycles, which are life sims. These are blank slate souls of nothing but pure potentiality. that need to be selected, and the right soul needs to go in the right body. All the pots are different. These are all unique, personalized avatars that are unique to the individual souls put in them. This great work is done only after the departure of Etana, who leaves the secret to immortality and leaves the secret to kingship and leaves the secret to the divine and the knowledge of self-awareness of who we are in this container, the living waters of Enki. It's all left in here to be discovered by the individual pot. These are the vessels that have the seal of the living God. This is why Jesus said this. It's always been very enigmatic, but Jesus wasn't talking about wine. He wasn't even talking about wineskins. Jesus said, neither do people pour new wine into old wineskins. If they do, the skins will burst. The wine will run out and the wineskins will be ruined. No, they pour new wine into new wineskins, and both are preserved. What you're seeing in these seals is the application of that stricture right there, in that gods were creating all new avatars for all new spiritual potentiality in the human species. This is the faith that we see that a benefactor from the underworld bestowed upon the human family in a pre-flood environment. His ascent into heaven by the phoenix has later caused many traditions to assume that he flew into the sky. Just like today, remember, the last days are going to be just like the days of Noah. What's so popular today? Psyops. Psyops are the shit today. Everything is a psyop. The whole entire Ancient Aliens franchise is designed to support the NASA psyop. The NASA psyop is specifically designed to get you to look up for everything when the custodial society is below us and has been below us. They are the Utu Abzu, the brothers of the deep. They've always been there, and they have always manufactured phenomena to make us believe that we have visitors from the sky when all visitors come from below. So this is what's being done in here. Souls are being put into vessels. Those vessels become the sheep of the Good Shepherd. The original pre-flood faith on the Etana seal. This is my favorite seal. This is my favorite seal. Jamie Robbins, I'm sorry, man, but I don't agree. I don't agree with your model, bro. I see you blowing my chat up. I see it over and over and over, man, introducing this negativity. I'm not feeling it, man. I get it. I get it that you have gone in a whole nother direction with all this. I get it. I don't agree at all. So, yeah, Jamie says I'm breaking his heart in the chat. Yeah, man. You know, I don't agree with none of that stuff. Original pre-flood faith on the Etana seal. Etana's ascension gave men hope. The Good Shepherd, God the Potter, made vessels, pottery, to house a new kind of spirit, one that had the hope of immortality. As the potter makes new humans, vessels, another god selects from the incoming souls, circles, which the pot, which is the body, they inhabit. I should have worded that differently.
It's okay. You're working hard, bro.
These new people are the sheep of the Good Shepherd, which is one of the most ancient religious statements in text all around the world. Many gods are called the Good Shepherd. Now, it wasn't just a Christian deal. Etana left the bucket behind to the guardians of mankind to ensure that truth and help would always be available to the rulers of the world in their plight to lead the sheep toward an immortal destiny. This image here is amazing. It's absolutely amazing because here is your bucket. But it's not just a bucket held by one of the Apkallu, but the bucket itself is adorned with the very concepts for which are found in all the reliefs where the bucket is contained. This one bucket has it all. There's your winged disc. There's your Enoch, Etana. There's your Enki, Etana, Hermes, Enoch sigil. There's your tree of life. There are the two Apkallu holding the date palms right there, and the tree of life is a palm. Here are your guardian Apkallu. The whole concept is found artistically on the very bucket that embodies the whole concept itself. It's like self-referencing. It's exactly what it is. It's self-referencing. I didn't even show this chart. I didn't need to show this chart, man. I didn't need to show this chart at all. This was all the Egyptian lunar stuff. We've already seen all that ad nauseum. So let's see here, man. Let me see. I'm going to. So the Egyptian god Num, it's Khnum, Num, is explicitly called the potter. He's a ram-headed god, but he was also the potter, and he made humans on a potter's wheel. And there are hymns to Num that talk about calling him the master of the wheel, and how the divine potter created the vessels that became humans. This isn't arbitrary interpretation. These come straight out of the ancient myths, traditions, and reliefs found all over the world. So, at the temple of Luxor, there is a creation of the Pharaoh relief, and it shows Hecate fashioning the Pharaoh on a potter's wheel. Pharaoh is shown spinning on a wheel forged by a god. So, or goddess, a goddess. So, in the legend of Enki and Ninmah, we have the same thing. The Sumerian legend. We have the mother goddess Namu, and she urges her son Enki to create a substitute for the lesser god's hard labor. And she specifically sets out to help Enki by kneading clay and getting all the clay ready for him to make a new race. So there's many other examples. The instruction of Amenemope. That's a hard one there. Egyptian wisdom text. Again, man is clay and straw, and God is his potter. It's an ancient. There's a bunch of them. Sumerian, Akkadian, Babylonian, Assyrian, Ugaritic, and Egyptian. Mankind is made from clay, and God is often referred to as the potter. In the ancient Greek legends of Prometheus, we have the same thing. The Titan Prometheus is widely credited with fashioning the first human beings out of clay and water. And it was a goddess, Athena, who breathed life into these clay figures. So it is so interesting that it's like a feedback loop. It is so interesting that mankind comes from clay. God is the potter. The avatar is just a vessel for something very important that God bestows the race. And yet when the avatar dies, where does it go? It goes to a funerary urn, right back to a piece of pottery. That's what the Egyptians did. The end of your life was just like the beginning. You started as a clay vessel. All your internal organs that are taken out of your mummy are put into clay vessels and stored in the tombs. So the end refers to the beginning. Again, self-referencing. The traditions are self-referencing to the origin creation story. So we move on now to this is what you sent me. So I'm going to show the Vatican material. This pine cone referencing. Let's see, share my screen. All right, so I'm going to share my screen. So these are things that Wit showed me, because I didn't really follow a lot of this stuff, but we can see where the Pope appropriated the meter. This is the original Owanis. This is the Apkallu deals. He's got the meter on his deal, and you can see that it is publicly acknowledged that this court fountain at the Vatican is a pine cone, and this is all deliberate misinformation, and the misinformation can easily be shown. Why the Vatican wants people to believe this is a pine cone, I don't know why. Why they would publicize, oh, it's just a pine cone. I don't know why. Because the excuse me, the two birds on either side are a dead giveaway that it's not a pine cone. These are peacocks. Again, this is supposed to be a pine cone. This is supposed to be a pine cone. According to them, this is supposed to be a pine cone. It is not. These peacocks actually tell us what this is. It's self-referencing. Let's show a few more. If I can find them. There we go. So all these images, same thing. People claiming these are pine cones. Again, all these are claimed to be pine cones. Somebody even called it pine cones. Yeah, this is all misinformation. None of this is true. These are not pine cones at all. Pine cones do look a lot like phoenix palms. They really do. So here's the pineal gland theory stuff. Yeah, I'm not buying it. Let's see. Here's the pine cone. Oh, that's a beautiful picture, dude. Here it is. So here's the fountain. And the water used to shoot out this fountain. You can still see some of the ports. But they say water would freely come out of this object up here. Well, there are no pine cones that issue water. So these are peacocks. And I would like one of my moderators to put the link to my video on Ketub. Because in Ketub, you will learn that the peacock angel is an occult and mystic designation for the phoenix, which doesn't make this a pine cone. It makes this a date palm. This is the bottom base of a date palm tree. Also, the date palm and the phoenixes are emblematic of Enki, who is the issuer of divine water. That's why this was a fountain. But since they started putting out that this is a pine cone and not a date palm, the fountain no longer works. It's not issuing water. Because if it was issuing water, it would be more symbolic of what it naturally was. A date palm surrounded by phoenixes, because that's what a peacock is. A peacock was used in ancient times as a symbol for the watchers. It was a symbol for the phoenix. And you're going to see why here in a minute. Here it is again. This used to be a fountain. Now it's not. Now it's just a dead pine cone with two peacocks that haven't flanged out their feathers. Okay, that's the end of that. Now let's look at the peacock, because this is where you'll see it. This is where you'll see it. All right, share my screen. Here is ancient artistic reliefs and symbols for the peacock. Also some photos. Beautiful peacock. The peacock is described as the peacock angel, and the peacock is a substitute for the phoenix. A big old mushroom.
Yum, yum.
There's a peacock.
Yep. You mistake the phoenix. They mask it with the peacock, and then NBC has the peacock.
There's the peacock right there.
Yep.
Why it was a symbol for the watchers, which would be the Apkallu, the guardians left behind by Enki to service the kings of the world, you'll see in a minute. It becomes very obvious why it's a symbol for the Watchers. All right, there's peacocks. More peacock art. Uh-oh. The peacock.
What does that look like?
A symbol for the Watchers.
Why, I ask?
It's a peacock. The peacock angel is interchangeable with the phoenix. Peacocks in ancient art. Oh, that's a badass picture there.
Yeah.
That's bright. That's super bright.
Oh, chat.
So the peacock, this isn't something that's not hard to find, guys. The peacock is considered an earthly manifestation or terrestrial symbol of the phoenix, representing a similar cycle of death and rebirth due to its annual shedding of feathers and growing a more beautiful plumage. So it was a perfect example of resurrection. Oh, peacock.
Nice.
Some beautiful ones, man.
It's like the Shroud of Peacock.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. There it is. So I hope one of them put my deal in for Katub in the chat. This is a whole lot of charts that I showed you guys today. And that pretty much sums up my presentation. That sums up my presentation pretty much. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I kind of lost a little of my, I'm not going to lie, man. Jamie Robbins, you affected my energy, bro. I don't appreciate that at all, man. You did affect my flow. Putting all that negative stuff in my chat, man. I don't appreciate it. If you feel that strongly about something, dude, do your own video. I'll direct my community to it, and they can go with your theory or not go with your theory. But you really kind of disrupted things here, man. I don't appreciate it at all.
I have way more than I thought we were going to go.
But that was my presentation, man, on Etana, Enoch, Enki, and all that. But yeah, no, I just wanted to cover the Vatican stuff last.
Yeah.
It didn't really have much relevance, man. But
Okay.
dude, hold on. Look at that. Look at that. Dude, we went through all that. We
You did them all?
Oh, yes, we did. We went through every single one of those, dude. There was a lot shown in this presentation.
I mean, we could let this sink in and reconvene. I mean, if necessary, at any time as well. Because the community's going to have a lot of feedback.
I'm going to post all these charts. Every chart that you saw in here, I'm going to put on X.
Yeah.
I can't really put a whole bunch of them on YouTube. YouTube doesn't allow but a certain amount of images per post.
I think you max out at 10.
Yeah. But this is a lot of stuff to share. This is a lot of stuff to move around. Hell yeah. So this is it in a nutshell. If you're looking for a bigger mystery for the bucket, I'm all for it. I'm all open to ears. But we went through, yeah, all these books are on Sumerian civilization from my library. Yeah, I stayed up late last night going through all these books on Sumerian art, going through the seals, finding out what all the scholars, how to translate the Etana seals, all that stuff. And I'm going to tell you now, if you have a better idea or theory for that bucket, I'm all for it.
Yep.
But it needs to incorporate the fact that we have a God who is the potter making vessels, that another God is selecting little things to put in those vessels as those vessels go to earth and become sheep under the good shepherd. So if it doesn't incorporate these ideas, then yeah, I'm going to have a problem with it. I'm definitely going to have a problem with it. Because it seems to be that we have tried to overcomplicate the oldest beliefs, and that when we just look at them at face value, they're no different than many of our modern religious tenets today. They're identical. They're identical. Anyway, that's it, guys. And I know you like that intro.
Let's play that again. outro.
That was a brand new intro. I've never showed it before. I got a couple more too, but I'm gonna go ahead and play that one again.
People missed it anyways.
It was awesome.
Yeah, we were still filming this.
Dear Watson, it's all my Sherlock Holmes stuff.
No, Sherlock Holmes, and I am Sherlock Homeless, everybody.
Sherlock Holmes. All right, love you guys.